Welcome to a new edition of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, where all voices matter. Let's check back with Dickson Delorme, aka Quick Dick McDick, for his take on farming issues and Canadian politics and whatever else we can talk about. Quick is a successful YouTuber and comedian. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks very much for having me, Mr. Clement. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So first of all, what's new on the prairies these days?
Well, it's not much. It's winter, so it just turns. I wouldn't call it boring. We've got some very exciting things that we do around the prairies here during the wintertime because it's winter here for around 8 months of the year. So you got to have fun things to do, but not a lot. We're just we're trudging away. We're into feeding cattle for the winter here now. A lot of the summertime activities are done. Filling grain contracts to town and whatnot. And yeah, there's never a shortage of things to be done around here.
I guess I hosted the Grey Cup recently, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, and go figure, our team couldn't quite make it there, and we had to bring our notorious rivals, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, into the province. But looks like Toronto got a hold of them there pretty good. But it sounds like it was a great party. Sounds like everybody had a good time. And when you come to Saskatchewan, if there's one thing guaranteed, it's that you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So congratulations there. I guess on a more serious note, farmers always face challenges. What sort of challenges are you identifying these days for farmers?
There's always different challenges. We could talk about weather and a lot of different things. We just came through a really good growing season. We got really lucky this year.
Oh.
We had some timely moisture, a lot of runoff in the spring, which helped us. We were late getting into the field. And Mother Nature helped us out. We were worried we weren't done seeding until 16th of June, which is about 2 weeks late for us. And the crops just managed to catch up with it. But I think what we're going to see going forward here, there's a lot of concern, with carbon pricing is still a challenge that we face. Bill C-234, I believe it is, we're hoping to see passed in the near future here to try and exempt some of our natural gas and propane carbon tax that we face, heating shops, drying grain, all that good stuff. But I think there's a lot of pieces of the carbon tax that we have to fight as farmers here on the prairies in Canada that a lot of people don't understand when you look on the commercial side of things, be it fertilizer production or be it commercial transportation. If we need our product hauled off of the farm by a third party provider, any of our main transportation and processing after that, when our product goes to, say, an oilseed crusher or oat processor, these companies all have to pay carbon tax on all these things. We might have farm fuel exempt from carbon tax, but it doesn't change the fact that anybody that processes any of our products doesn't. And I think that puts Canadian agriculture at a global disadvantage, Tony. Because these are additional costs that our industry has to face. That our competitors, which is the U.S. and a few different countries, Brazil, they don't have these costs that they need to face, and so we're uncompetitively competing on this market, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like from the way you describe it that it's a lot of cost of living issues for farmers, different from a city dweller perhaps, but still it's the same forces at work, right?
Yeah, and I would say there's a fairly large rural urban divide. I think that's slowly the distance is getting greater and not getting closer to this divide of where our food comes from. And I think a big problem that we have as Canadians is we have a lot of people that will maybe agree with the carbon tax that maybe live in a city. Specifically where there'll be, I believe it's 4 out of 10 families was the last I heard from the parliamentary budget officer that actually get back more from the carbon tax than they pay. 6 out of 10 families pay more than they get back, right? So I think it's a really big divide, and people kind of don't understand the different supply chain issues or steps that we need to take to get our products to our farm, planted, grown, back to our suppliers, and then redistributed and processed from there. And once our manufacturers are done with these products, the carbon tax doesn't end there either. I mean, there's commercial transportation that takes them from there to the grocery store. The grocery store pays carbon tax on the heating and electricity that they do there. There's just so many different levels of this where we're just negatively affected by it. And I hopefully I can continue to do a little bit of a service to just show people, where all these things affect us throughout the supply chain, because the supply chain is very thick and deep web that I think a lot of people don't really understand.
Indeed. Dick, we're going to take a brief break here. We'll be back after the break. Sell a little bit of time for our commercials, and then we'll be back. Please stay with us. Talking about rural farming, prairie issues, whatever comes our way. You did mention in the first segment there, Dick, the carbon tax issues. Obviously, one of the big ones over the last few months has been this proposal. I'm actually a bit confused what's going on with fertilizer on this. It's kind of mixed signals. The federal government's saying there's no big issue here. Other people saying there is a big issue. So what's your take on that?
I did a video on it, an upload on it called the Canadian fertilizer ban, which is basically just a general look into what we're doing with fertilizer use here in Canada. And there are some big issues with it. Right now, it's just a target that the government has set that we want to reduce absolute fertilizer emissions, and it's kind of an asinine number. I think the biggest problem that we have is right out of the gate, we're looking at absolute emissions of what we emit in using fertilizer here in agriculture. And I think it's very important for us to not look at absolute emissions, but we should look at what we emit versus what we produce.
Right.
And what the federal government is proposing right now is that we just absolutely try and eliminate our emissions from fertilizer by 30%. The problem is especially here on the prairies. I mean, we're starting at a different place than a lot of different people that practice agriculture in the world are. Is we're some of the pioneers here in Western Canada of zero to low till farming. And when we look at these practices that have been adopted here in Saskatchewan, we've already reduced our carbon footprint, and we've already reduced our fertilizer use by using the 4 Rs, right? So we do the right source of fertilizer at the right place, at the right time, at the right amount. The amount of technology that's just come into the agriculture industry, even in the last 10 years, has been absolutely amazing.
Right.
And I think the frustrating thing that we find from a lot of farmers right now is that this is stuff that we're already doing and working towards, and we really don't need a government to come and say, hey, you're going to do this, because we're already doing it. We're a business. The less fertilizer we use, the better our business is going to do, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean
when I see
that's a good point. I mean, best practices. You're going to be seeking to reduce your fertilizer intake anyway, and that's
that,
happening with technology and some other things. Is that right?
absolutely, and that's where I get quite upset when I'm being given business advice from a government body that can't seem to manage a passport office, or that we have a completely sinking debt, that we now spend more money servicing our debt in Canada than we do on our Canadian military. I'm skeptical of advice that I get from people that manage business like that, because Canada is a business, whether we want to look at it or not, right? And from where we're starting, back to my original point, is like we're already starting from a point of where we have reduced our fertilizer emission and carbon footprint here, especially in Saskatchewan, by practicing zero till farming for years. So when we want to go down farther from where we already are, we're already starting a long ways ahead of where the rest of the world is, and I don't think that's really being considered.
Yeah, and obviously, farming is kind of integral to our economy and a big chunk of Canadians' way of life. So you want to get that point of view across too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge part of our economy, right? And especially in Saskatchewan here. I mean, we are a producing province. Alberta's the same. Manitoba's the same. We are going to have some higher emissions here in the country of Canada. And when people talk about emissions being counted per capita, it can be quite frustrating as well, because we're a very large landmass of being Saskatchewan, and we have a very low population. I believe we're at 1.2 million. And we are an extractive, productive province that has very carbon intensive industry here: farming, mining, forestry. These things all come, of course, with a carbon footprint, like anything does in the world. And we are a very remote, very cold province. So we are, yes, we are going to emit, but it doesn't mean that we're climate bandits that were emitting more than we possibly should, and that's where it's really important. I think that we need to look at how much do we emit versus how much do we export versus just emissions per capita.
Are you getting a sense that some people are starting to listen to that argument?
I hope so. I hope so, Tony. And I think we have a long ways to go. I don't specifically know the answer to get our word out, to get our story out. Obviously, myself with a YouTube channel, I try my best to get the story of agriculture out to people that might not see it. But I fear that a lot of my productions don't make it to the people that really need to see it. And I think a big challenge that we're going to face in over the next period of years is going to be trying to get our story to
Right.
people, because I think if people really understood what it is that we do,
Yeah.
they would probably be a little easier on us.
We're just going to take a brief break, Dick. We'll be right back. And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Dickson Delorme, aka Quick Dick McDick. Dick, we were just talking before the break. I mean, you're actually spending a good chunk of your time trying to educate people on how reliant we are as a species to farmers and farming. So I know you said it's a challenge, but can you give us a sense of some things that you think have been successful in that regard?
Yeah, I've done a few videos. I've got kind of a kid series of videos that I do, and I've seen a lot of those start to show up in classrooms. I'll get different pictures and stuff from teachers. Hey, thanks for today's content to things. And I mean, obviously, you can't post everything that Quick Dick McDick puts on social media, but I do have that kids little list of videos that I do. I also do some productions. I've done one called Beefing Around, and a couple other ones that are just, there's we don't talk politics, we don't use profane language, nothing. It's just we just go out and have some fun farming. I did another video about silage. I've got a little series going on about oats, and it's tough, and it's hard to gauge exactly what your audience is getting, but I try and tell everybody when I run around and do talks to different ag communities and different schools, places, is you might only get through to 4 or 5 or 6 people with some of these productions that you do, but that's 4 or 5 or 6 people that you might be able to have realize something. And
Right.
slowly, if you can change things 4 or 5 or 6 people at a time, it's better than 0 people at a time. And it's gonna be a hard grind. And I'd hope everybody does their best to try and get their word out and get their story out.
No, that's a great way to look at it for sure. Hey, I'm going to ask you to cast your mind back. I took a look at your biography a little bit, and I noticed that in earlier days you motorcycled across Canada. So, love to know what you learned on that adventure.
It was great. I had a goal of getting my picture with my motorcycle at every provincial crossing in Canada and the territories, and I managed to accomplish it,
Wow.
except for Nunavut, because you can't get to it by motorcycle. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
it was amazing. And I know a lot of people across the country of Canada. I've worked with a lot of them in my previous oil and gas career, and it was just a great opportunity to go and see some different communities and towns and people. And it just deeply entrenched my love for Canada. And I think as much as the narrative might carry the fact that we're different in the West, and the East is this and the West is that, it really doesn't exist. I spent 2 weeks in Quebec, and it was the best time of my life. It was incredible, and I met so many different people. I knew some people there already, and believe it or not, Tony, I got to work on my French a little bit. So
There you
that was,
go. Everybody's
but
a winner.
we're so connected in so many different ways across this country. I think people really don't realize it. But I come from a small town of Tufnell, and I like to look at it as there's a lot of little Tufnells all across Canada. You just got to go find them and enjoy the people there, because we might all have a few differences here and there, but at the core of all Canadians, I really do believe that we're all the same. We're all very proud of our country, and we're very welcoming.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it, and to have that experience with all those different people must have been amazing for sure. Now you're kind of partially political, so how have your views of politics and politicians changed as you've sort of gone out there a little bit more?
That's a good question. I've I've been exposed to a lot of things. When I started off, I was very heels dug into the ground, and I have my own way of thinking. Now I still do, but that being said, I've really tried over the last little while to expose myself to different political groups and maybe people with different opinions of me, and I would I would advise everybody else to try and do the same. We're obviously always going to have different political views as humans, and some for different reasons than others. But one thing I really have learned with being my audience increasing and my reach increasing is connected to me with a lot of people that maybe have different political views as me. But if you can get past the partisanship of maybe trying to hang on to a party, you will find when you talk to people that the core of people, which I just said about being across Canada, is that we want what's best for our community. And a lot of communities are very different all across Canada. We might have the same people in them, but a lot of different things happen. I mean, if you take homelessness, for example, I mean, that's not something that we have in Tufnell or that we deal with on a daily basis. So it's not something that I would specifically pay attention to in politics. But if you get, let's say, downtown, I'm going to even say Regina here in Saskatchewan, homelessness is a problem. Crime is a problem. These are people that are trying to advocate for something that's affecting their community. So I've tried to open myself up to different people's political views to try and see where they come from, right?
Exactly. And welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Dickson Delorme, aka Quick Dick McDick, talking life, politics, you name it. Dick, I do. Obviously, you've been very successful, using YouTube and other social media challenges. Give us your sense. I mean, you're out there. What are the upsides and the downsides of having a social media presence?
There's I'd say the upsides is it's been good for it's I guess good and bad. It's been good for my mental health, to be honest,
Okay.
with our farming operation, because there's a lot of instances where you'll feel like you're the only person that has had a fire on your farm, or you're the only person that's having a drought, or you're the only person that's got a broke down baler, or your wheel fell off your tractor. And it's really easy if you just live in your own. And we are in a very little secluded area of the prairies in Saskatchewan here. It's pretty easy to start getting down on yourself, thinking you're the only guy that has these kind of struggles. And social media has done a good job of exposing me to a lot of different people that experience the same kinds of struggles. And it makes you feel better, maybe, that you're not alone, and this isn't easy for anybody. And it's changed how I've done a lot of my uploads. Is if I find myself having a bad day, I try and share that bad day, or maybe something broke or something's not going right. I try and share it in a comedic way on social media as a way for me to connect with other people, saying, "Hey, you're not alone. Quick Dick has problems too," you know. So that's kind of been one of the cool parts of it. I wouldn't say there's a whole pile of negative parts of it. It's helped me. I feel, grow as an individual, and I hope people have grown along with me a little bit. You're always going to have people being negative towards you on social media, and I like, my advice to anybody when you get negativity on social media is just remember that person is hiding behind the safety of a screen,
Right.
sometimes 3 countries away from you. And it goes back to getting to know people and hearing other people's views, because I found, if you sit down with a person across the table from them, whether you're having a coffee or whether you're having a beer, whatever it is, you will find that people in real life are very different from who they project themselves as on social media. So
Yeah, and you don't know what those people are going through in their own lives that create their own negativity. So you've
yeah,
got to throw around a little bit of grace while you're at it, right?
absolutely. And another thing to remember too is, just because you're bantering back and forth on Twitter with somebody with a picture of a cowboy hat on a horse, you don't know that it's a person with a cowboy hat on a horse. It's just a guess. You know what I mean? I think the
Yeah.
only reason people gotta know who I am is because I'm usually on the end of a video somewhere doing something kooky. So
So what's next for Quick Dick McDick? What are your plans?
I wouldn't say I have plans an end destination for what I'm doing. I just kind of have a roadmap that I follow. I try and keep things organic. I try and keep things funny, and I just want to try and continue to help a few charities along the way. I've had some great opportunities to work with some great organizations, and it's just been great.
Yeah, name those charities while you've got the
Okay, well,
opportunity.
thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I did some big stuff with the Terry Fox Foundation, the Braden Ottenbreit Close Cuts for Cancer. We raised almost $60,000 to cut this beard off of my face last year, which
Yeah.
was awesome, and it saved me a pile on shampoo, which was great. So uh, yeah, so there's just been a lot. The Phone Lake Health Foundation, we raised some money for a new digital X-ray machine here, right in this small town, and it's just been I've been very privileged and honored to be able to be a part of these organizations. And there'll be more to come. We're just gonna keep trying to do things like that, and hopefully in a funny and comedic way, we can keep learning a little bit about the things that keep us watered, fed, and housed. Farming, not only agriculture, but I'm an advocate for the oil and gas
Right.
industry, forestry, mining. It's all very integral parts of how we sustain life, the comfortable life that we sustain here in Canada, right? So I just feel it's really important for people to keep being informed on how we get all these fancy things right at our fingertips, right?
We've got about 20 seconds left. How do people find you?
You can find me at Quick Dick McDick, basically anywhere. QuickDickMcDick.ca. I got a little merch store there with a bunch of Canadian-made hats and bunny hugs and stuff. And you can find me on Twitter. Everywhere I am Quick Dick McDick, except on Instagram I'm QD McDick for some reason. But I'm
Okay.
just the goofball with the beard out there goofing around. You can't miss me.
Well, Dick, we wish you every success and thanks for coming on our program again.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All the best. Thanks again to Dickson Delorme for being on the program. That's the second appearance in as many years. Really interesting fellow who's got a great following and obviously very authentic and passionate about his issues as well. Thanks for watching today.